like to drive around and talk about the latest happenings. This is the channel you need, so subscribe and follow Carmentary.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Carmentary, the show where I drive somewhere and talk about something. I'm in my car again. I'm heading to the bank. Always exciting to go to the bank. Find out how little money I have. Yeah. Alright, today, earlier this morning, I did an episode in Japanese, and I thought I'd follow it up with another one in English. Always good to work on my language skills. And when I mean language skills, I'm talking about English. Because my English is now probably worse than my Japanese. After almost 30 years here in Japan, speaking Japanese non-stop for most of that time, I think my Japanese is now better than my English. Finally at the point where I can admit that. So it's nice to have the opportunity to keep both hands on the wheel and to speak a little English, even though this is a one-way conversation. Today, I'm going to talk about my recent trip to Shikoku, the southern island here in Japan. I am based in Hokkaido, as you probably know by now, northernmost island of Japan, large island. There's a small island called Nishiri that's further up north, but down south we have the main island, Honshu, we have Kyushu, and we have Shikoku. Shikoku, translated, means 4 countries, because originally the island was divided up into 4 separate countries. It had, I guess we're talking about the Shogun era, where they had, local rulers, and those have now become the prefectures of Ehime, Kochi, Tokushima, and Kagawa. So those 4 separate countries all eventually now have become one under the Japanese rule, and it's a small island compared to Hokkaido. I believe it's 1/4 of the size of Hokkaido, so that can give you an idea of the size. When you take off in the airplane and you fly over it, especially I went to Ehime, and the airport's in a city called Matsuyama. Very lovely city. It's on the western side, the southwestern side of the island. So when you take off, you basically fly, going north to Hokkaido, you fly over the entire island and you can get a real view of it. It's very mountainous, and they're very steep mountains. So you have very little flat land. The northern side of the island, where Kagawa prefecture is, has more flat land. Ehime, very little flat land. It's very mountainous, and the mountains go steep really quick. So I think that is why they were able to sort of have 4 separate little kind of countries within a small island. They were probably so, it's very hard to get over those mountains back in the days. It's hard to get over those mountains even now. The roads are very narrow. They're just sort of carved into the hillsides, like single lane roads basically, with small little passing sections along the way. And if a car comes, you gotta go, oh, who's gonna okay, there's a little game of chicken there to see who's gonna pull over and let you pass. So it's a tough land to conquer. Hokkaido is tough in that there's a lot of snow, the winters are very long, so I think people had a hard time, pioneering this island in that way. But in Hokkaido you have a lot of flat open spaces. It's easier to farm, easier to cultivate, easier to raise cattle, whatever you want to do. Shikoku is definitely more secluded, tougher to cultivate. So that's kind of the overview of the island. Very mountainous, small island, and it's really kind of off the radar when it comes to this big tourism boom that we're seeing here in Japan. So I like to talk about this on these Carmentary episodes a lot. you know, the numbers are going through the roof as far as tourism is concerned. By 2030, they're aiming for 60 million visitors a year in Japan. And I think a lot of that now is focused on some of these big tourism kind of epicenters, the hubs, you know, obviously Tokyo and Osaka. In the winter, you have places like Niseko and Nagano that you're bringing in the tourists. And Shikoku, you know, it's just down there for a week, and you really had a feeling of like, nobody's coming here. At least, you know, not many foreign tourists. The main tourism attraction in Ehime Prefecture, where I went, is the city of Matsuyama. They have a very famous hot springs called Dogo Onsen, and it's several hundred-year-old build. It's like 300-year-old building and 300-year-old or more, you know, hot springs, and that is kind of like their number one attraction. It's right in the heart of the city, so you can come there. You go downtown. They've got like a shopping arcade. It leads right to that onsen. It's very picturesque. You take pictures of it. You walk around. There's a shrine behind it that's cool, and the city has a very quaint streetcar. Very quaint, very picturesque streetcar that a lot of people go and they take pictures of the train station there where the streetcar comes in, and it has a great vibe. And I think it seems from what I heard that basically the tourists come there, they do that, and then they go, okay, let's go back to Osaka, you know, and they just take off. They don't explore further. So I went to a small town called Uchiko, which is about 35 to 40 minutes drive or train ride from Matsuyama, just a little further south. And I was absolutely fantastic. I was blown away by the place. 6,000 people population, so it's quite a small town. It was a smaller town, but as it happens in Japan, all these small little villages and towns are joining together. Their governments, you know, they can't quite support themselves on their own anymore. So a lot of these small towns will join forces and become one larger town, and that is what has happened in the Uchiko area. So it's quite a large area, several mountain valleys with all these little villages and farms and rice fields and etc. have all kind of joined together into one. They do have their little, they keep their names, you know, but technically they're governed by one office. So again, you know, long history. I mean, we're going way back into the samurai days of Japan here. You know, you can see it in the architecture. You can see it in their rice fields. They have a famous, it's all over, but since it's very mountainous, they've built these terraced rice fields to cultivate rice over hundreds of years. There's one spot that's way up in a valley, like way up, like 35-minute drive from the main city, going up this crazy narrow road, and you get to the end of this valley, and they've terraced the whole thing. And it's like, why would you build rice fields in this spot? Apparently what they had to do is, if you dig down, it's rock, it's bedrock. So they used like dynamite or something to blast the rock. It blows it up, you get all these little rock chunks. They take the rock chunks and they build walls. And then they fill in that with the sand and the dirt and whatever you need to make a good rice paddy. And they repeat this. And from the bottom all the way up to the top, and the width of the rice paddies gets narrower as it gets steeper, obviously. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's an amazingly picturesque spot, especially at sunset. It faces west, so you're looking into the setting sun, and the water is, you know, as they plant the rice, they have to fill it with water, and it's absolutely picturesque. But you know, why would you build, or why would you take the time to do something so difficult? That was my big question. And it turns out they don't have, you know, ultimate proof of this, but the story is that now, you know, everything's taxes. If you, whatever you make, build, sell, any money transaction, it gets taxed, that goes to the government. Back in the days, like 300 years ago, there would be a local, like a king, like the shogun, Tono-sama, the king. And he would go around collecting taxes in the form of rice. Maybe other things too, but a primary source of everybody's income and livelihood was rice. So this guy would go around to all the other little villages in the different valleys after harvest and say, oh, fork it over, folks. And people would have to give them rice as payment. So it's rumored that this really difficult to access terraced rice field up in the woods there was a hidden operation. They would go up into the very hard to access valley, create this secret little terraced rice field, grow that rice and hide it from the local king. Brilliant, right? Yeah. So obviously back then, no Google Earth, no satellites, no maps, no nothing. We're talking now we have a road to get up there. Still, it's a minimal road. Back in the days, it probably would have been a secret little trail that you just walked up through the forest. And no one would think to go up there and look for a rice paddy. So, hearing something like that, I thought, oh, it's just fascinating to me, that to hear the history and to be able to tour around an area like that and see it today, and really, appreciate it for what it is. So, all in all, I'm thinking Shikoku is like, it's got an amazing future as a tourist destination in Japan, but I think it has a long way to go for a variety of reasons. Obviously, access is one of them. It's not the easiest place to get to. It's kind of it's kind of like Hokkaido in a way, in that we're not a hub. You have to arrive in Tokyo or Osaka and take another flight and get up here. Same thing with Shikoku, but they haven't really been able to put together the real sales pitch, the real pull to say, you gotta come here. Whereas Hokkaido, definitely through the winter season and the winter sports, has been able to do that. That's like the killer punch. It's like, we have the best snow in the world. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, you do. Okay, I guess we should go there. And Shikoku is like, we have the best rice paddies in the world. Okay, that's fine. We'll just we'll buy some rice, but we're not going. I think it's that kind of thing. So I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg down there, just sort of getting a little flavor of the place. But I see, huge opportunities. It's just it's incredibly beautiful. It's incredibly clean. The people are, it's a small island, so it has that mellow, kind of chilled, slow pace vibe that you get in a place like that. But the people are very cultured and very stylized and very aware. So again, that shows up in the architecture and the way they've maintained and kept the towns there. The quality of the food preparation, I thought was really good. So I think that comes just from their long history, and also being just across the Seto Naikai, the strait there, you have Hiroshima, which is an amazingly beautiful culture town. A little further north you have Kobe, and then you have Osaka. So you're kind of surrounded by all these really, cultured areas. And so I think there's a lot of influence. There's a lot of influence, but yet they're far enough away that they've been able to do their own thing for a long time. So it's created a really unique culture down there, and I'm excited to explore it and learn more about it. I think that's all I have today. I've arrived at the bank, so I'm gonna go do my banking, and I'll let you guys get on with your day. To go into the bank, I will change my hat. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another episode of Carmentary. Drive safe.
If you like to drive around and talk about the latest happenings, this is the channel you need. So subscribe and follow Carmentary.